Yes, hello and welcome in again to another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We are sitting in studio on a cold December morning. Glad we got the heat on because we paid the bill this month, so that's exciting news. I am sitting in the studio with a terribly dressed Red Wings Lions fan. Man, he just looks like someone vomited right all over him. Anthony, what's up, brother?
Not much. How's it going?
Well, I wish I had a brick wall in front of me, so I have to look at that ugly shirt.
Hey, it's one of your favorite teams.
It is not one of my favorite teams, not in the slightest. I despise Red Wing hockey, so no, I cannot say that that's one of my favorite shirts. But it's okay. I can look left and see something else. Nice. I'll tell you what. I'll look right and see the nice Vegas flag.
Oh, fair enough.
Unfortunately, they did lose last night, 3-2 to the Hurricanes. But
yeah, ugly kind of shootout.
Well, Fleury came back, so.
Yeah.
It's optimism. They got a big game against Pittsburgh on Thursday, so hopefully they'll turn it around.
Yep. Excited to see that and what happens with that.
How about you? I mean, in all your years of going to hockey games, never seen an overtime game, and then 2 straight games you go to T-Mobile Arena.
Both shootouts.
You need 2 shootouts. That's pretty impressive.
Very impressive. I was shocked to see the first one because we were in a deficit until halfway through the third and snuck out and almost lost in overtime, but Subban had a great save against the Ducks last Tuesday. Yeah,
that was 1 week ago. This leads me into my first topic of discussion when we're talking about hockey. And last night, Edmonton put a hurt on the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yes, I was on the good side of that one. I had Edmonton in that.
Did you?
Yes.
Well, Columbus got their butt thumped, and the final score, I believe, was 7-2.
Correct.
In that, and head coach John Tortorella might have had the shortest press conference I've ever seen in all my years of watching sports in general.
Of all press conferences that have actually happened, I'm pretty sure it's the shortest.
Yeah, it's got to be. If you haven't heard it, go ahead and take a listen. We'll play it right now.
Listen, guys. I know you have a job to do. I'm not answering any questions tonight. There's no sense of me even trying to answer questions about this evening, okay? So, sorry about that. Have a good night.
So, yeah, there you have it. I mean, what was that, 12, 13 seconds long?
Yeah, it was very short.
So, long story short, no pun intended, he answered 0 questions. He gave 0 information about the game. But, I mean, on the ice, it spoke for itself. My question to you is, the media has a job to do. What's the story here? Is the story the game, or is the story his lack of speaking to the media at that point?
I think it's kind of hand in hand. It goes together. He's like we got blew out by a struggling Oilers team. What else is there to answer? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I don't blame him.
We got our asses handed to us.
Yeah, I mean, you have situations. I mean, you look at like Tortorella, we talked about last night. Cam Newton in the Super Bowl didn't want to answer questions, and everybody wanted to rip him for it. You know, when guys come off games like that, they don't want to talk. I understand they have an obligation, but I mean, you gotta, as a media member, I mean, what quote do you need from that? You know, how did your team come out? No, we fucking sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want?
Yeah, there's nothing to answer.
Yeah, I mean,
except we blew it.
I still think there's a job. I mean, in the good times and in games where there's tough losses, the 99% of coaches, players, executives are going to give you a quote, a soundbite, a clip, an interview process. But maybe they're, every once in a while they're going to have that game where they just don't want to speak.
Yeah, and if they do speak, they might do something ridiculously stupid. And
yeah, if you start blaming the media, if you start blaming the officials, you're going to get fined. So it's the Marshawn Lynch theory, and I'm just here so I don't get fined. Well, if I'm here, I might get fined. So
yeah.
it kind of, the shoe kind of falls on both feet in that point. I don't know. Initially, I didn't have a problem with Tortorella's lack of a press conference, but being in the media, being a media member in my prior careers, you got to give me something. I mean, let me give me a shot at a question, give me a shot at a quote, give me a shot.
Yeah.
I would rather you sit up there and be Bill Belichick the whole We're on to Minnesota, we're on to Cincinnati, kind of that bullshit.
Yeah, we're moving on to the next game. That's it.
Give me a shot at a quote, the Nick Saban approach. So I feel a little mixed on that. I'm not sure how I feel with Tortorella. I mean, I love the guy. He brought my Lightning a cup, so he gets a pass in my book. I just had mixed emotions on that press conference. Part of me laughed. Part of me was a little upset being in the media. But overall, I don't really have too much of an issue with it.
Yeah, they come back to play Thursday against the Islanders at home. So,
there you go. You can probably get a quote from him then. So,
yeah.
Well, hopefully, one thing Tortorella will be happy about is the salary cap in the NHL next year is projected to rise anywhere from $3 to $7 million. So that's a big benefit for a lot of teams, obviously. We talked about this before. I don't know. I've been trying to look it up. I want to know if you know on Twitter or if you know on Facebook, give us a shout. Twitter.com/Vegas Squares, Facebook.com/Vegas Squares. If you know how salary caps in sports increase and decrease, I don't think they decrease though. Do they decrease?
No, I don't think.
If you know how that happens or what steps or what factors make that happen, hit us up on social media because I'm not really 100% sure how that happens.
Whether it's like inflation or
I know it's an association between the NHL and the Players Association. There's a decision on a lot of different factors. I don't know what those are, but anyways, the spending limit for this year is at what 75? I think
75. Yeah,
so that was a $2 million increase from last year. Now we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 7 again.
Yeah,
and I always said GMs in the NHL have the hardest task because they have $75 million to sign 30 players?
Roughly 30
players to the actual that count against that cap.
Yeah.
So that is tough to do. That's less than $3 million average per player.
Which is pretty low, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys in the and the NFL making 25. What's Stafford making? 32?
Right around that, yeah.
So you got situations
way overplayed.
Well, that's a whole different bag of worms. But you got guys, an average player value of less than $3 million it's tough. It's tough to factor in that, that guy who's Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid who's going to cost 12 to upwards of maybe like John Tavares this year. I mean, I'm sure the Islanders GM is jumping through hoops with hoping for a $7 million cap increase because that is their main concern. Is Tavares. He's their number one target. He's probably their only target. I mean,
yeah, I would say so.
He's having another monster year, so he's not going to be any cheaper than you thought he would have been last year. So, any teams that you see that can benefit from the the cap increasing?
I actually just see something that says the cap jump last season due to players utilizing the escalator clause in their contracts in order to raise the space. So it might be something with like the players' organization.
Okay, that could be it. I think Ottawa is another team with Erik Karlsson who's going to be coming off the books next year. If the cap only rises a couple million, they'll be able to either re-sign Karlsson or soften the blow should he walk next year. I think they got to trade him if they don't think they can re-sign him. Mark Stone also with Ottawa is due a new deal in this offseason, so hopefully the cap increasing will help them. The Ducks got a lot of players about to set to hit free agency.
Yeah.
Cogliano, Vermette, Chris Wagner, Derek Grant, Bieksa, and Beauchemin. They'll probably let Beauchemin walk. Nick Ritchie and Montour are RFAs, so they got a ton of guys that they probably either need to make decisions on. Beauchemin's old; he'll probably walk. Grant, Vermette, and Cogliano are probably going to be their top targets to retain. So that $7 million would obviously be good for them. Your Red Wings don't really have a lot of key players they need to get. I think they want to re-sign Athanasiou. How do you say that? Is that Athanasiou? He's on a 1-year deal right now, so he's probably looking to get paid. So
yeah, he's definitely worth a good chunk of money.
I think Dylan Larkin might be coming up as well. Peter Mrazek, are they going to get rid of him? Or what's that? I feel like Jimmy Howard's just been holding on to that position, like, just mediocrely, but Peter Mrazek can't really take it.
He's not really the answer, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, do they let Peter Mrazek walk?
I would say so.
If the cap hits 80, they'll have about $15 million to spend, so, or $17 million.
I'm actually hoping with this cap increase, and hopefully we kind of get rid of Zetterberg. I'd rather see some younger talent come in.
Well, Anthony Mantha's going to have to get signed, too. So.
Yeah. I'd rather keep him around than have Zetterberg.
Yeah, so that's a couple of teams that would definitely stand to benefit. The Blackhawks are obviously another team because Kane and Taves both come on the hook for $11 million next year. So that bump will definitely help them
give them a little breathing room.
Yeah, Seabrook, Duncan Keith, Corey Crawford are all set to come off the books and need new contracts. So that bump in the salary cap is definitely going to help those teams at least have a shot at retaining some players, or we're going to see some guys test the free agency, see what they can get in other spots. So that's where I think, let's send it back to our home, Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the guys that McPhee drafted in the expansion draft are on 1-year contracts. Marchessault, James Neal, Perron, I believe Riley Smith as well. My guess is that one of Perron or Neal is going to get traded at this point, at some point in this season. I think it probably would be Neal because I think he fetches a better package back. So the question is guys like Perron, I think Marchessault, they got to make a point to lock him up. I think Marchessault and Smith, the way they play together, is really good. So
yeah, it's a good combo package.
I think you can let David Perron walk. I don't mind keeping him. I'm just saying, I think of the 4 guys, I think he can walk. What are your thoughts on if you had to trade one of those 4, who would it be? Who do you think gets the best haul back?
Neal by far. I think all around he's just a great player. In my mind, I'd rather see the Golden Knights get rid of him because he's going to sign a big deal coming up here soon. So
yeah, Garrison's going to come off the books. He's sitting in the minors right now. Yeah, Riley Smith. Wow, Clarkson's making 5.25. He's got another year under him. I don't know if they'll. He's got a no movement clause. Man, Riley Smith's making $5 million. Cody Eakin. Yeah. So there's some. They got to re-sign Tuck here coming up soon. He'll be a restricted free agent. Carlson will be a restricted free agent. He's got to be a top priority.
Yeah, I'd like to see them re-sign Tuck for a decent long-term deal.
Yeah. So they've got a couple of guys who are going to be. Perron's a UFA. Riley's locked up for a while, so that's actually good. He's locked up for 5 years.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, so Neal, Perron, who else we got? Marchessault will be the big guy that they gotta get down. Clayton Stoner, Derek England. I think they'll let Derek England walk.
Yeah. Or maybe trade for a draft pick or something.
Yeah. We got Marc-Andre and Malcolm locked up for 2 more years.
Okay.
Dance becomes a restricted free agent, so they'll be able to keep him.
What about Subban? 2 years?
2 years, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He'll be a restricted free agent, so that'll be fine. So they got a couple of guys. These bumps, these are the teams we're speaking of that we've just been doing research on. These bumps will be beneficial to these teams because it's tough to get it's tough to get 25, 30 guys in a $75 million cap. So we'll see.
Especially if you have 1 or 2 people that's fetching double-digit million.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll see what happens if they go to the 3 million or all the way up to 7 million. So any bump will be good for the game. So that's the exciting thing is that the NHL is flourishing enough that they can actually take measures to improve the game by being able to pay the players a little bit more or being able to make the game more competitive and the parity a lot more competitive. Because I think hockey, next to the NFL, is one of the more parity-driven leagues.
I would say so, yeah.
I mean, you look at it. I mean, I look at the standings, and with the exception you take out Arizona and maybe Buffalo, I think everybody's pretty competitive.
Yeah. No, I lean towards that as well.
So, well, we talked about the NFL here, just in this last segment just a little bit, and I want to segue to that. And I've been kind of watching, obviously, over the last 5 years, we've seen it, a gradual trend. I feel like this year it's ramped up a lot more. The crackdown and the penalty flags on hits, illegal hits, low hits, late hits, however you want to label it. but hitting defenseless players has become such a new issue in the league. And I feel like, in my opinion, and I'll ask you, in my opinion, I feel like it's slowly hurting the league.
I think so as well. I think like some of the guys that bring their wives around to watch the NFL, it's kind of hurting them and their mindset. And they're rambling off to everybody else.
Say what now?
But in my mind, like if you have a guy's party or whatever and you're bringing like your wife or your girlfriend and they see like a crippling hurt, kind of like in the Pittsburgh game.
Yeah, I mean, I could see what you're saying, but I'm thinking more along the lines of, I like to see that kind of violence in the NFL. And when you're doing everything you can to take it away, it almost seems like you're taking away a piece or a segment of the sport that we grew up on, the sport that we loved, that we played as kids.
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion, I think when you step onto a football field or when you play football, you kind of know those risks. And I think a lot of the players realize that. And you have to make that decision, do I still step on that field? On the flip side, as a fan, I also take issue with the fact that I'm not seeing superstars because they're getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the league's duty and the league's mission to protect these guys. Because, I mean, look at it. For 7 weeks, we had no Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
For let's just say, I don't know off the top of my head, 12 weeks, we haven't had Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Unrelated to injuries and hits, for 6 weeks, we haven't had Ezekiel Elliott. Like, you need that star power.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have that star power, because they're hurt, you're losing viewers. But at the same time, you're losing viewers because we feel like at some point the wussification of football is commencing. I know that's not the right word to use, but it's the first thing I can think of right now.
No, that's understandable. One thing I would like to see with the league is them being more consistent with all their penalties and all their fines and suspensions and all that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we talked about that with Goodell when he signed the extension. It's like, I think he needs to turn over his judge, jury, and executioner powers of discipline, because I think he's shown that he can't be consistent in that capacity.
I mean, if you look at all the hits that have occurred this year, there's been some clean hits that people have been injured for and some dirty ones as well.
Sure. I mean, injuries are part of the game. That's a way it's going to kind of happen. I understand. Like I said, I understand it from both sides. The NFL needs the stars. And when OBJ and Aaron Rodgers and 10 years ago when Tom Brady went down, and take your pick, it begins to put a black eye on the NFL. So the fans gotta ask themselves, which way do I want it? Do I want the star powers or do I want the hits? And I think the NFL can survive no Aaron Rodgers for 6 weeks or no Odell Beckham Jr. for 1 year, more so than almost the situation now is they're turning it into a flag football sport.
Yes.
So the question is the NFL over the next 5 years to 10 years has to decide which direction they want to go to. They want to protect the players or they want to protect the brand?
It's kind of seemed more like it's turning into basketball. Like, you don't have good teams against good teams anymore. You have star players against star players.
Right. And star players obviously drive the revenue in the league, but at the same time, the NFL is the one sport where you don't see the face of the player on the field. They have a helmet on. I mean, you know who Aaron Rodgers is. You know who Odell Beckham is. You know who Tom Brady is. You know who Russell Wilson is. But for the majority of the other 53 guys on that roster, if they took off their helmet, if they took off their pads and walked through a grocery store, I wouldn't know who they are.
Most likely not, yeah.
So, and you have that in every sport, regardless of whether they have a helmet on or not. I mean, you look at basketball. You got James Harden, you got LeBron James, Kobe Bryant. If they walk through a store, I'm like, holy crap, it's James Harden. Holy crap, it's LeBron James. Holy crap, it's Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
But Patrick Beverly walking through a store, or I don't know, give me another name. I don't follow basketball that much, but Patrick Beverly came to mind. Trevor Ariza.
Maybe like Andre
Is he still in the league?
Drummond or
Andre Drummond, yeah, okay, that sounds a good one. If that guy walked through the store, I'd walk right by him. I have no idea who he is. And that's the same mantra for about 90% of players in each league. stars drive, but the sport thrives on the sport being, what's the word I'm looking for? Preserved.
No,
It's the same thing with baseball. It's like they're speeding up the game to try to attract a younger crowd. Well, why don't you attract the crowd you have?
Yeah.
The crowd you have doesn't care that the fact that the game's going 3.5 hours.
Sometimes 4 even, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You don't need to put a pitch clock on it because now you've affected me. Sometimes my escape is going to the TV and watching a 4-hour baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you take that away from me?
No, I absolutely agree with that. Like, baseball in my mind, not too big of a baseball fan, but I really enjoy listening to it on the radio because it allows me to do other things while I'm listening to it.
Fair enough. I guess my question to you is, if the NFL decides to go down this path, which I really, unfortunately, with our society becoming as soft as it is, I think that they don't have a choice but to go down that path. What sport, other than the NFL, what sport stands to gain from this decision by the NFL, in your opinion, of any of the sports? Obviously they all do, because hockey has seen that they've gotten new fans, new followers, and now new markets, potentially 2 new markets with Vegas and maybe Seattle, and maybe more down the line.
I would say NHL, because they still have those hits, they still have that fast-paced action.
I mean, fighting's come out of hockey a lot.
It has died down quite a bit in the last decade or so.
Yeah, I think all 3 of them stand to gain. I think the one that has the most to gain right now, because it's the second most popular sport in America, is basketball. I think basketball is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't want to offend anybody, but to be honest with you, between basketball and football, between the 4 major sports, basketball and football are the sports that can be watched by the fans with the least amount of intelligence.
Fair enough, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like hockey, there is an art to it. There's a sport, there's strategy. There's a lot of strategy, obviously, to baseball. A lot of situational. Basketball and football, I mean, while there are schemes and strategy, it's pretty much hike the ball, get the ball down the field. Shoot the ball, get it in the net as many times. It's still pretty basic. And I understand that somebody can say, well, hockey's, get it down the field. Well, there's not. There's a lot of situational, shots, angles, passes, line changes.
Dump the ball.
I think those are the 2 major sports that you need the least amount of intelligence to watch. And that's why I think basketball, when people stop watching the NFL, especially with the hits, the protests, etc., I think the NBA stands to grab that fan base and hold on to it.
I could see that. Plus all the superstars that they have.
Well, yeah, they have marketed themselves globally better than any league.
Oh, by far, yeah.
I mean, Yao Ming came over here, and the Rockets are still like the most favorite team in China. They're still so popular.
Yeah.
It's just their brand all over the world is becoming such a mega hit, whereas the NFL has a little bit of global, reach in London, Mexico, and they tried a game in Australia, or they tried a game somewhere on the Pacific. I don't remember how it went, but they haven't really gone back to that, so I couldn't imagine it went too well. Hockey's been kind of branching out. They played a few games in Sweden this year. Mm-hmm. Hockey would do well branching out into the European markets for obvious reasons.
Yeah, the Northern Europeans, like Norway. Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to put a hockey game in Mexico. Let's just face it. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
And baseball obviously would be most beneficial in the Latin regions. The World Baseball Classic's a pretty cool event if you ever get a chance to ever watch a World Baseball Classic game live. I watched a Dominican Republic U.S. game in Orlando. That was probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever been to in sports.
That'd been pretty sweet to see.
So, let's jump off that wagon and talk about an NFL topic. Rodgers, we were talking about, with the injuries, he's actually now been medically cleared to play. Packers still have an outside shot of making the playoffs. I wish Casey was here. He's a diehard Packer fan. He would have been good to answer this question or have a debate with. But all reports say they've got between 6 and 15% chance of making the playoffs. Do you put him back in there with that kind of minimal chance, risking another injury, or do you just save yourself for next season? Obviously, I would know what Mike McCarthy would say, but what do you do if they're the front office?
Front office, I would say put him in. I mean, you still have that shot. It's not like you are officially out of it and you're just trying to get a good draft pick. I mean, there is still a shot.
You still have tickets to sell.
Yes. I mean, he's been medically cleared to practice. They did a X-ray earlier this week, and it looks completely 100% healed. He's been practicing the last month or so.
Yeah, I remember it was like 3 weeks out of surgery throwing 60-yard bombs. That's crazy.
Yeah. I'd say put him in. I mean, this week is do or die. So
right, they're in a must-win situation at all points the rest of this season. They got the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Lions left. So obviously they're going through the division. They're fighting those three teams for a playoff spot. I don't think they can catch. They can't catch. Can they catch the Vikings? Well, the Vikings are 10-3, so
they still can catch the Vikings to win the division.
So,
but there's a outside shot looking in.
Right. So they're going through the Panthers and the Lions at this point for a playoff spot. So I mean, Rodgers is the kind of transcendent talent that somebody would use. He moves the needle. He moves the line, and that's. I don't know. I go back and forth. I mean, the question is Rodgers even want to play at that point? Because, I mean, as an athlete, I'm sure he does, but at the same time, Anthony Barr kind of ran him into the ground, and, you take that first hit, and, I don't know. It's with a 15% chance or less. I mean, I guess if he goes out there and doesn't get injured, but they miss the playoffs, no harm, no foul. I don't know what the injury risk is. Obviously, he's been medically cleared, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily not susceptible to re-injury. And then you're looking at long-term effects.
Could be out a full next season.
Yeah. So, I don't know. If I'm Mike McCarthy, obviously he's going in there if he's ready to go. That's a tough question. I think McCarthy and the staff, Ted Thompson, and Aaron Rodgers have to, if they haven't already, have a really strong sit-down meeting and determine what the best course of action is for both Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
I think ultimately it lies between those two and what Aaron Rodgers wants to do and what McCarthy.
Paul McCartney?
Yeah. McCarthy wants to do.
If you're Aaron Rodgers, you put yourself in Aaron Rodgers' jockstrap right now. Do you come back?
If I'm him, I'd probably go in.
Go in and play?
Yeah.
So ESPN Football Power Index, the Packers have a 9.2% chance to make the playoffs with Rodgers. Without Rodgers, they have a 6.6 chance if Hundley plays.
It's better than I thought you were going to say.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Proves your odds by 3.2%.
Even if Rodgers runs the table, the Packers are not a virtual certainty to make the playoffs. Although their chances of making the playoffs, if they win out, are 90%, 89.9%.
Yeah.
So that's a huge gap. I mean, those are 3 winnable games, 2 division games, and who is it? Carolina. 2 divisional games in Carolina this week, in Carolina. So that's. I think Rodgers got to go in. Casey and I talked about that the other day, and he said there's no point in putting Rodgers back in at risk to injury. But, I look at that. I think maybe, I think you start him against the Panthers. If you lose the game, then you shut him down.
Oh, absolutely. You don't risk it further.
Yeah.
And hopefully he doesn't get hurt.
So we'll have to keep an eye on that as the week develops, because that'll be an interesting topic of conversation, because obviously playoff football, when it comes down to these last 3-4 weeks of the season, you start thinking about teams who may have been out of it early, like the Chargers, all of a sudden find themselves back in these situations. It's kind of crazy. Like the Chiefs-Chargers game is de facto division, in my opinion. That team goes 8-6 and has a huge advantage. I mean, KC could still come back and win out, get the tiebreakers, but that's going to be a huge step up if LA can beat Kansas City or vice versa.
Yes.
If Kansas City beats LA, then it's virtually the lock because they'll have an extra game on them by beating them twice.
Craziest thing that would happen if that game ends in a tie.
Yeah, yeah, that would be weird. Any interesting games for you on the docket in the NFL this week? Other than I know your Bears and Lions, you're going to be hooked to that on Saturday, but
Yeah.
that Chargers-Chiefs game on Saturday will be pretty good prime time.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about that.
I've always kind of secretly rooted for Phillip Rivers, even though I don't have any interest in the Chargers. I always feel like he seems like a good guy. He's always got a passion for the game, and he doesn't fuck up off the field. I kind of like closet root for him a little bit, so I'll be rooting for the Chargers in that game.
There's two games I'm interested in on Sunday. One is the Rams against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And then the other is obviously the Patriots against the Steelers.
Patriots-Steelers is obviously game of the week. What were your thoughts on that clunker on Monday night?
Wasn't too surprised. I'm surprised they didn't get in the end zone instead of scoring that field goal to try the onside kick.
Well, they had to. It was fourth down. If you don't get in the end zone, then you're really screwed. So you take the field goal. When it was 27-10, let's be honest, I turned it off. And I'm a Patriots fan, and I just like, this is terrible. Something about Brady in Miami, man. It's like, I don't know. It's like what do you call that? It's like a curse or a chip it's just a monkey on your back. But I was looking on Twitter and stuff, and the sky is falling. They're like, "Oh, Brady's done." How could you guys call this guy an MVP when he plays like this? Like, fuck, shut the fuck
one game.
up.
It's one game.
Oh my god, it's like
I was looking at the in game, and when they're down 27-10, and Patriots only plus 350.
Yeah, I mean, a team down 27-10 should have been in the 6s or 7s.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward for that Steelers Pats game.
I think Bill Belichick last week's game. Like, the Steelers already had their plate full with the Patriots. Now you got your plate full with Gronk coming back with basically a bye week and a pissed off Tom Brady and a pissed off Bill Belichick. If you didn't have your plate full then, your plate's full now.
I'd take my chances with some wasp.
Yeah. So good luck to Mike Tomlin creating a game plan for a pissed off Patriots. Pop. I'm going to call them the Pop. Every time they lose a game, we'll call them the Pop. Hashtag Pop. Pissed off Patriots.
Yeah. I definitely like the Patriots in that matchup.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Texans, Jaguars, and Browns, Ravens. Those are the two games I'll be sitting now. Fuck that.
Browns, Ravens, yeah.
Yeah, Chiefs, Chargers, for me, is going to be a game to watch on Saturday night, I love Saturday night football. I think the Thursday night game should move to Saturday. I understand why they do it the midweek, and, you got to get your football fix, but maybe a Friday night game, but Thursday's just tough.
Thursday's just tough. I like the idea of maybe bumping it to Friday or Saturday.
Yeah. So,
make it like a Saturday afternoon or like a Friday night.
I wonder if they'll, when does the flex scheduling start? Do you know?
I believe that's like the fourth week into the season.
The flexing where they can take the Sunday night game away?
Yeah.
I feel like Patriots Steelers should be Sunday night football. Cowboys Raiders, beginning of the season would have been a great matchup, but I feel like that should be flexed right now. I feel like Patriots Steelers should be, especially with the Patriots having that Monday night game, I think they should get the most time to prepare. Mm-hmm. The NFL, if you're listening, flex that fucking game. Get rid of the Cowboy Raiders, put it on another time. But Rams Seahawks, you're right. Patriots Steelers, another good game. I want to watch Titans at 49ers, and I'm actually being serious because I want the Jimmy G train to keep rolling, and this is actually a legitimate team. The first two teams he beat was Chicago. They didn't score a touchdown, still won the game. And Houston, was playing TJ Yates. So I'm interested to watch. I'm still rooting for Jimmy G, so I'm interested in watching the Jimmy G train keep rolling. So that's a game that's the beauty of Sunday Ticket. I can watch all these.
I'm interested in the Dolphins Bills game, especially if it snows.
Yeah, it might snow again. Yeah, Dolphins.
Both those teams are in playoff contention.
Yeah, I feel like the Bills, depending on who starts at quarterback, I feel like the Dolphins blew their load on Monday night. So
yeah, and plus there's Cutler.
Snow, Cutler, and a hangover might be the recipe for a Bills
blowout.
A Bills blowout. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
So anything else? Obviously, bowls start this weekend. Anything else? We'll have a bowl preview show up for you. But bowls start this weekend with the Las Vegas Bowl here, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's next weekend, I believe.
December 16th. No, Las Vegas Bowl, right? Yeah, with Las Vegas Bowl. The first actual bowl game is the Celebration Bowl at the Mercedes-Benz. But, yeah, no, Sam Boyd, Las Vegas Bowl at 12:30.
This Saturday?
Yeah, who you got? Oregon minus 7.5 versus Boise State.
I like Boise State plus the points.
Damn, me too. Damn, I was going to make a bet with you, but...
Nah, I think Oregon's a good team, but I think they will not cover the touchdown in
especially with their coach leaving and everything. So
yeah,
but yeah, stay tuned. We're gonna have a bowl preview show up available on the website as well. So definitely be looking out for that. Anything else going on for you in the world of sports this weekend? I know you went to the hockey game last night. We had a good time.
Yeah, unfortunately lost, but
yeah, that's all right. But
shit happens.
Yeah, so you get a wild weekend of NFL. The Bulls will be starting. I think this might be, as they say, the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah, I mean, we got a rivalry hockey game tonight.
Yeah, we got Bruins and Red Wings, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Rivalry Wednesday.
All right, you want to make a bet on that one?
What you talking about?
Let's make a bet.
How much?
I don't know, $20.
20? Straight up?
What's the line?
Detroit is a underdog at home.
Oh, shocker. Haven't they been an underdog at home like the last 3 years?
Pretty much.
So you got, what do you got? Boston Bruins at Detroit. Boston's a 135 favorite. So I'll tell you what.
I have 140 on here.
Okay, so we'll go 140, the worst line. I'll take the Bruins. We'll just make it a $10 bet. I'll take the Bruins. If they win, I win 10. If you win, you win 14.
It's fair trade.
Or 12, excuse me, 12.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. That's a fair trade. So we'll book it. We'll pay each other out, or I'll get paid probably. So
yeah,
that'll work. I didn't even look at the lineup. Marchand's probably not starting, and Tuukka Rask probably has.
I hope Marchand's out.
Tuukka has probably hemorrhoids and Hudobin probably got drunk on a bender in Vegas and hasn't returned to the team. So who knows? I didn't do any research.
And Char's probably gotten invited in parking lot.
Char retired like 3 weeks ago. So anyways, but yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend in sports. So that'll be fun, and I don't know. We'll do it all again next week. We'll recap week. What are we at? 15 now?
Week 15, yes.
Yeah, we're at week 15. Be on the lookout for the bowl preview show. We are actually going to run down every game against the spread, and we are going to pick it. And we are actually going to have $100 on it. Whoever picks the most covers of the 674 bowl games that are in the college football season, up to and including the national. We can't pick the national champions. We can only pick the playoffs.
Yes.
Whoever picks the most, we'll check it up. January 2nd?
Yes.
And whoever picks the most will win $100 from the other guy. So shake on that one, a gentleman's agreement. Huzzah!
Hey, what are your thoughts on this? Having the two worst teams in college football play each other in something called the Toilet Bowl.
Well, what do you mean?
You put the two worst college football teams in everybody's mind.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
Throw them into a stadium. Winner wins the Toilet Bowl.
Okay, great.
The losers has to walk out with toilet seats on their over their heads.
Okay, good. You should get a committee to draw up those plans.
Oh, yeah.
You can get it sponsored by Scrubbing Bubbles.
Put it in Detroit.
Yeah, well, Detroit already won the Toilet Bowl. The city's a dump.
It's an understatement.
No offense. So, all right, well, this has been another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We definitely thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the Fortress Files, also on the Vegas Squares Radio Network. It is a podcast talking all things Vegas Golden Knights, and Anthony was on it the other day. That was pretty cool.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so we had fun with that. And I'd like to say hello to our newest sponsor, ChaiPoker.com. If you are a poker player, check them out. It is a charity website dedicated to charitable efforts, and also it is sponsored and made by a professional poker player here in Las Vegas. So if you would be so kind as to give them a look and donate if you'd like. They have many different events they run around the town in Las Vegas, and they have many different charities they support. So if you have a big score in a tournament, or maybe you win a gold bracelet at the WSOP, maybe think about hitting up Chai Poker and giving them a donation. So
check him out.
Yeah. So for Anthony, I am Aaron. This has been, again, another edition of Vegas Squares. Check us out online at Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, and the website, vegassquares.com.
Email us if you have any questions.
Yep. Email us at vegassquares@gmail.com. Take care. See you again.